All right, let's see if we are. That is good. Okay. Put all the code into here so we can look at it later. All right, so let's put this into routes. All right, so the point of this this video is going to be the basics of express routes and how that interacts with your Express server, how you can hit it with Postman and test these routes and the different types of routes that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a really quick npm project to put this Express server into. All right, so that gives us there, and then I need to install Express for us to actually use. Okay, so once I have that up, we can now go into Atom and start setting up our Express server. I'm just going to move. Okay, so we have a blank file. We want to install Express. Like we've installed it, we need to now actually add it in here and then use it to set up a very basic server that has no routes in it. Const express, make that a little bit, equals require express. And I also want to spin off an app from this, so const equals, and we're going to launch express as a function. And we also need a port for this to run, so port equals. So knowing that this might eventually deploy this, I know that I'm going to want to grab the port from either the environment variables, but if those aren't there, I'll grab it from just port 3000. So process.env.node environment, but if that doesn't exist, we'll just do 3000. Okay, and so let's now set up the app.listen. So app.listen on port, and this is done. Run the callback, which allows us to say API port Okay, so we have a very, very, very basic API here. Now we can actually hit this if we run it. So let me come over to terminal. Oh, I misspelled const. And okay, we're up and running, everything is good. Now we can open up Postman and hit our application and see if it's working or not. So do a GET request to HTTP localhost:3000. it doesn't just completely error out. Instead, I get a 404 not found error, which does mean that my server is working. All right, so what that means is we now get to start talking about the routes themselves. So if we're talking about REST, we have get, post, put, patch, and delete. We have a few more HTTP verbs that we could use if we want. But the basic ones are going to be get and post right now, and then we'll add in the other ones. So a GET request is something that the browser does automatically. So if we head over in Chrome to localhost 3000, we get this cannot get slash. Perfectly normal. So let's fix that by adding in a route here. We're going to say app.get, and so that's going to say a GET request, and then we have to have what is going to be the path of the URL. So this is going to be after that localhost :3000 part. Slash, and I don't want anything else. Just this is going to be the root one. And inside of any route in Express, we have a callback function that takes in rec, res, and next as the parameters. And rec is going to be the request coming in from the client, in this case Chrome. And res is going to be the response that's going back out to Chrome from Node. So in this case, I just want to tell them, oh yeah, hello. Let's just say hello. So I'm going to say res.send the word hello. And if we come back to Chrome and I hit refresh, we get hello as the word here. This is the basics of a GET request. Now we can send other things, like I can send an actual JSON document, but we'll do that in some of the other these other requests here. Post is the next most popular one. This is not something that the browser does when you just go to a URL, but it is something that you can do in a form. So in a form, you can say method post action and then give it the URL. So if I wanted to say app.post, well, now it's going to be the exact same thing. And these URL routes, they can be independent of each other because this post to slash is different than a get to slash. They may be the same paths, but they're different methods. So I'm going to say post to slash right now. And we'll do our same rec, res, and next. And let's now add this in here where rec and res, let's actually like bring something in from Postman. So I'm going to start with just a mirror here, where I'm going to say res dot send whatever came in the body of rec. Now we have to now send something in, and we can do that with Postman. So let's change this over to a post request. We're going to the same URL, and this now in Postman, I have the body option. Now, there are these different ways of sending data in. Always choose X www form URL encoded. Form data is a little bit difficult to get the data out of. Raw is okay, but it's kind of a pain to like manually create the JSON data. But this is nice. We're able to send out the keys and values here. All right, so what do I want to send? Let's just send like a hello world. So hello key, world is the value. Hit send. Well, I got a 200 OK, so it wasn't a 404. It didn't not find the route. Just nothing came back to me. So if we console log this.
Yeah, is it on the project?
Okay, so if we put this in here, let's now see what's console logged out. I'm going to click send, and we'll check here, and we got undefined. So
No, there's not.
we get undefined because the data coming into the body is not available to us right now.
My hair's
So-
above my head.
Certainly not.
It's not stress. No.
All right, so we need to go find some
Was
way
it
to
her
like
question?
grab the data from the body.
Data in tables?
Now,
Is it
I happen to know that there is a great npm package for us to use. It's called
Copy
body
Kelsey,
parser.
she's on
So
the list. Wait, someone left
npm
her too. Ooh,
body
shit. Okay. That's a proposition.
parser. The npm body parser will allow us to grab the data from the body. So let's start. I'm going to create a new window tab for this. Npm install body parser. And while that's installing, we can start setting this up inside of our file. So const body parser equals require body parser. Now, this is middleware, which means that we have to, before our routes, but after our const app equals express, run some code. Now, the code we need to run is given to us inside of the documentation here. Right here. These two lines of code. I'm going to put them in right after this const port. And put them nice close together. And this will now allow us to extract from x www form you are uncoded or just raw JSON data. So if we come back to Postman, let's now see if this works. We get hello world back. It's pretty much like magic at this point. We're able to run this code. It runs between every single request that comes into Express server, but before it hits the route. And so that's what allows us to get the data in rec.body. If we check our terminal, it's also console logged here. So I don't need this console log anymore. So this gives us an app.post. Now, in REST, get are usually reserved for retrieval type routes. And post is usually reserved for creating routes, like if you're going to add something to a database. Now, we're not going to hook up a database right now. We're just talking about express routes themselves. Now, these are all great. And we can use forms with these. Everything works just fine. But what if we wanted to use something else? Something like a put or a patch or a delete. Well, we can't normally use this inside of an HTML form, but we can use this inside of JavaScript that's running on the browser. We can use the fetch API, or we can use jQuery or Axios or any other system of sending AJAX, or rather, yeah, AJAX. So let's figure out what we want to do. Let's do a put next. So on the Express side, there's almost nothing different. It's going to be app.put, and then we're going to put the path that we want to go on. Now we've just done slash and all these. We could put slash in here. It would be a different route because it's a different verb. I'm, however, going to do something like maybe slash update. And it's going to be the exact same thing. Rec, res, and next. And in here, we can just send back whatever we feel like. So let's say we wanted to make this actually, an API that allows us to update some kind of a data. So what I'm going to do is have a data file call this data.js. And inside of here, I'm just going to say module.exports equals, and then just a simple, let's make it an array. We don't have anything inside of this array right now. And in app.js, we can grab this data and say const data equals require data. Now, let's say we wanted to actually make this work for real. So a post, what would we do? We're going to add it to here. So we're going to say data.push rec body. And in the get, we want to retrieve this data. So we're going to just say res. I'm going to use JSON here because it's going to actually parse the data as JSON and send it back as that particularly. So it's not just string, but rather proper JSON data. And we'll just send data back. Now let's, before we go into put, let's test this out and see how this works. Postman, we're going to do a get first. So an empty array, which is perfectly fine. That's kind of what we expected. Now in this post, we said hello and world. If I send this, well, we get nothing back. That's because in right here, I do a data.push, but I never respond. So in an express route, if you don't do a res.json, it'll hang your server. Postman will wait for, I'm not sure how long it will take to time out, like 30 minutes or more. So what I really want to do is say res.send status. Now I don't want to send like any actual thing whatsoever. I just want to send, hey, res.send status 201. I want to say, yep, it did good. Everything's good here. And so if we come back to Postman, send this again. Created. If we go to our get, we have hello and world. Now we don't have two of these things because we restarted our server, and every time our server restarts, in this case, it's going to reset that data for us. Okay, so we have our get to slash, we have our post to slash, we have a put, and this is going to allow us to update something. Now, this is not necessarily the an easy way to do this. I need some kind of like ID system because we want to update the thing we're doing, and we don't want like slash update. Well, let's update like an ID. So I'm going to say like ID right here. But if I do an ID, I also need the ability to update IDs inside of data. I need to like track where we are. Well, so what I'm going to do here is where I have these variable declarations, I'm just going to let ID latest ID equals, I'm going to start with 0. And every time we post into here, before I push rec.body, I'm just going to say const d equals rec.body. I'm going to create a shallow copy of this, and now I can add in d.id equals latest ID. And then I need to remember to increment latest ID. So latest ID equals latest ID plus 1. Now let's push D in instead of rec.body. And then we'll send status 201. We don't have to send status 201. We could also just send status 201 dot send and then put the ID in. D dot. That way we know which one we did, and we can use that later for our update. So let's test this out and see if it's working before we move on to update. So I'm going to do my post, and we got a invalid status code 0. What happened here? Res deprecated. Oh, res.send status. Okay, so fun fact, you're not allowed to send just a number because Express gets a little bit messy with it. I'm just going to send the entire thing back. That will make it a little bit easier for us. So when I send, we get, okay, we put in hello world, and this is the ID. If I put this a couple more times, it's hello world ID 1 now. All right, so that's our post. We have our get too. So we can come back here and verify that this is what we think it is. We have two things in our database, or our data array, that is. Let's now do a put. We have this colon ID, and the colon ID is a route parameter for us. So that allows us to extract this number or whatever we put inside of the route, and then we're going to use that as data to update this thing in a database. So I can extract that. We're going to say const ID equals rec.params.id. So that's going to give us this ID back. And we can verify this with a quick console log. So we can just say console.log ID. And just because we can't forget to send anything, I'm going to say res.send just nothing at all. Just send emptiness. Now, if I send a post, I'm going to go to our post here, and I'm going to say, make this a put. And we're doing hello world, but we need to go to slash and then the ID. So if we go to /0, which we knew was hello world, so I'm going to change this to hello G64 is now. I'm going to say send. I get nothing back, 200 OK. But if we look at our terminal, 0 is what was sent in. That's what this number was. So with that ID, our entire goal now is to update just whatever object, just like replace it with rec.body. So we just need to figure out which one it is. So the easiest way to do that is just to loop through. So we're going to do a for loop is less than data.length. All right, and inside of here, we're just going to loop through until we find the, so if data.id equal to ID, then we know that we have the correct one. So at this point in time, we want to now replace it with whatever is in rec.body, but keep the ID. So we're going to say data of, and actually I realize I need data of I.id. So if data.I equals, and we're just going to say rec.body. But before I finish, I also want to say data of I.id equals ID to keep that the same. And I also want to break out of this loop because if I have 1,000 items in this array, and I find it in the first one, I do not want to wait to go through the rest of these. So I'm just going to say break. And then we can just res to send saying, hey, we're good. Everything is good. What I can do here is just send status 200. Everything is fine. Let's come back here. We'll do, because I'm restarting the server, I don't have anything in the database, all empty. So let's first do our post, hello world. Get an OK. If we do our get request again, you'll notice that, oh, it didn't get put in there. Oh, this is a post. This is not what we wanted. We want to post with this. Cannot post. Oh, not to 0. We want it just to that. So we got our hello world. If we do get request, it's exactly what we wanted. We now need to go do a put to 0 and in a body hello 4. We get a 200 status. Okay, let's come back to this get. It's hello world again. Let's verify what was going on here. So if we come back and take a look, we are just replacing it with rec.body. Let's try console logging what rec.body was. So log rec. It'll come down here. Let's now repeat our entire thing that we did. So we're going to start with a post. Hello world. D of 0. We're going to do a put 0. Hello G64. And this. And we got a hello G64. And then if we come back and we do our get again, world. So let's see whether or not, I feel like maybe it didn't find what we wanted to find. Now I have a sneaking suspicion of what's really going on here, and it's kind of an evil thing, because I'm betting that this const ID is not what I think it is. I'm betting that it's actually a string and not a number. So I'm going to convert that right here. I'm going to say number, convert that. We're rerun our server, and let's do this whole thing again. So post hello world, add that in there, get, and then our put. Everything's okay. Let's do our get again. And now it's hello G64. So it wasn't, that if statement wasn't running properly because it couldn't find it. It was a string and not a number. Now this is a put request. So there is such a thing as a patch request. I'm not going to show that here right now, but the general idea of patch in RESTful design is that you wouldn't have to put in, you wouldn't just replace the entire rec.body. You would go in, find out which items that were passed in, and only change those. A little bit more work to do when you're programming, but it's a nice feature to have. Not every not every API has to have a patch, but it is nice if you put it in there. Remember to only put in what your application truly needs when you're building it for yourself. Okay, so the last one we're going to show here is delete. So what a delete is going to do is we're going to say, okay, go to a specific ID here in this route, and then remove it from this, move it from the data. And the way we can do that is, well, we can do splice. So we need to find out, we can do splice, or we can just set it to null. Like, that's easy enough too. So let's app.put, let's figure out, let's just do another one of these. So it's going to be app.delete and then /:id, because we cannot delete on something that we don't know what we're deleting on. Okay, and in here, we're going to do the exact same thing. Const ID equals, convert it to a number, rec.hams.id, and I don't need to console log this body anymore. Okay, so we need to find which one that we're trying to delete, and when we know which one we're trying to delete, then we need to remove it from there. So let's first get this. So let's say let x equals 0. So we're going to assume it's 0. Now I'm going to for loop through and find which index is and update that. In fact, I'm going to actually say let index, so it'll be undefined. And that way, if it's still undefined, we won't have to delete anything. So for let 0, I is less than data.length, I ++. And let's now loop through these if data .id equal to the ID. If this is true, then index is set equal to I. And that's pretty much all we want to do right here. Now at the end of this for loop running, we now have index. So if index is greater than or equal to to 0, we now know that we have something here. Now I can't just do if index because 0 is falsy, and if 0 is an actual thing, that's something that we need to delete. So the way to remove something from a JavaScript array is splice. So we're just going to say data.splice. We're going to give it the index. So index and the number ones to delete. That's it. And as soon as this happens, we're now going to res.send status 200. All right, let's see if this works. So coming back to Postman, we're going to do this entire pattern back again. We're going to first post and send hello world. And we have hello world ID of 1. Let's do a hello G64 too. All right, so we send that. We now have, we do our get. We have 2 items, hello world and hello G64. Let's now send delete to /0, which will be the first item in the array. So we should only have hello G64 next. And we send this, we get an OK. Let's do a get to see if it worked. It did. So we have only 1 item in our array now, which means that we have all of our RESTful routes out. And these are the express routes that we most often are going to be creating. Now, sometimes we might not see them in exactly this format. We might not see our routes all in app.js. And there's a way to move these out. So let's do that next. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it routes. And inside of routes, I'm going to create a new file called API. You can call this whatever you want. So I'm going to begin by taking all these app.gets here and remove them from here, cut them out, move them into api.js. Now, it won't just work automatically on its own yet. We have a few things to do. First of all, we need to bring in express. So const express equals require express. We also need to set up our router. So this is similar to setting app up, but it's going to be router instead. So const router equals express dot capital R router as a function. Now this will allow us to do, we can do router.get, router.post. All we have to do now is replace all these apps, router. And at the very end, we want to now module.exports equals the router. So this will now allow us to get the specific routes that we want. Now this won't quite work just yet. We need to hook it up inside of app.js. I'm going to bring it in right here. Const, I'm going to call this API routes equals require routes / API. And then we're going to hook this up as middleware. So right down here, I'm going to say app.use. And now here's where I get to put the URL that goes in front of the path that's inside of each of these routes. I could put something like /API. I could put something like /dogs or data or anything else. If I don't want it and I want it just to be pure /, I'll just do app.use/ and then the API routes. And if we now let that restart, we'll go to Postman and we'll run through this entire thing one last time. So app.get, data is not defined. Right. So remember now that our routes are inside of here. All of this data cannot be here anymore. So data has to be moved in. Right? And since this is in routes and data is out here, we need to do this as a // Also, I want to take and put that into now everything should be fine. We get an empty array when we do our get. Let's do a post. Send hello G64. All right, that came in just fine. Let's put that. I'm going to go to 0. I'm going to just say hello. All right, we get an OK. Let's do a get request again to make sure it happened. We get hello world. And let's do a delete. We're going to delete the first thing. That went OK. And let's do a get. Everything is gone. Empty database again. So those are the basics of the routes. And I am going to be putting this code into this account, BrooksPatton/Galvanize live streams. You'll be able to find all of the code that I will stream out in here. This is the first stream that I've done here, so feel free to go and peruse through it. And you can send me messages here or via Twitter or anything else. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more fun live streams.